Welcome to my Creative Corner 3, a podcast about quilting, crafting, creativity, with a dash of garden, chatting about current interests and life in my northern town. You can find show notes at mycreativecorner3.com. You can also find all of my social media, how to purchase a virtual cup of coffee, and all events on the website. Please feel free to stop by and leave a comment. I really appreciate everyone who listens. Thanks for stopping by. Welcome to the podcast. Hello, everybody. September has arrived. Can you believe it feels like fall is in the air? It's Labor Day weekend. It is the 4th of September. I wasn't paying attention and I'm like, what? It's college football weekend. It's the kickoff to the season. And it's also the start of the new year for school, which always makes it feel like this should be New Year for me. So what have I been doing? Well, I've been working on my UFO challenge. You know, a little bit of cooler weather and a little bit of a nip in the air in the morning just really helps me to feel more motivated, I think. Summer, you just get the dog days of summer going. Yeah, that was the last podcast. But I have been working on my 90-day project with my challenge, with my quilting things. I have finished up all 100 blocks of the Kindred Fusion sampler. I have divided them into two 50-block piles, and in those piles, I decided to use one of the suggested layouts in the digital download. It's called Dissolve. One of those quilts is completely pieced, and the other quilt top with the other 50 is almost completely pieced. So I'm pretty excited. Been working on that pretty diligently, and I think I'll have that done this weekend, and I'll be able to start putting together the top of my Irish chain. I believe all the blocks are done, and I'm going to do the traditional Irish chain pattern, and I have enough of the background to just have a lot of neutral color. So I'm instead of colors and scraps. So it looks good. I'm really pleased with how things are working out because, you know, I don't know, both of these projects about at the 60% point, I'm like, what am I doing? They look ridiculous. I'm going to throw them away. That adolescent phase of a project where you're just like, I am so not sure about myself and I'm not sure about this project. But they are all turning out quite well. And I think that, bodes well that on this 90-day UFO challenge, I will have them all done and quilted when the 90-day period is done. So the third project was the old UFO that I found from a pattern I did 10 years ago with that 1970s vibe in the fabrics. And I will have those done. So because I've been so diligent about it, I am definitely starting the Bats and Boo. It's a free pattern that Fat Quarter Shop has done, and it was a mystery, but I waited until all the blocks have been revealed, and I'm going to start doing some of those blocks this weekend with the orange and black and pumpkin fabric that I bought from Halo Inspirations quilt shop online. So I'm pretty excited. It's just been, I'm on a roll. I feel like I'm finally getting into my usual routine. The 90-day transition from going back to the office to now is over. And I do feel like it's been a 90-day transition for a lot of reasons. But my routine feels like it's back. And I've got my morning is my most productive time for crafting and creating and long arming, and it's just really doing quite well with getting things done and feeling like I'm on a roll. So the next thing is I'm going to work on quilting all of those tops. I have one of my own top, the B hexagon, that is ready to quilt, and then I'm working on two of my mom's, and I will have those done pretty quickly. I have some good quilting plans, And I like doing a lot of overall texture with a little bit of maybe custom light. That seems to be my favorite thing to do. A couple spots where the quilting is a little bit different, but quilting something half to death is not the objective on the next several quilts that I'm doing. And I'll have to say, I really not sure once I get the quilting done and the Halloween quilt top done. I think I'm going to go back to doing English paper piecing and wrapping up the the hexagon pieces that I have in a bag. They're all different seasons and colors, but I just like making the hexagon flowers, and I'll probably do that as my hands work more as the winter goes on. So, what is my handwork right now? I am working on the elementary wrap with my transitions yarn. And I have transitioned from the purple gray to the gray and burgundy color. It's probably about 6 or 8 inches long. I'm the world's slowest knitter, but it is a very nice project to work on in the evenings. I have really enjoyed doing it. And if I only do a couple rows a day, then I feel like I have really had some success. I've also been doing a lot more with my Cricut projects, and I have also done a lot of other crafts too. So we're going to transition into the part of the creative process part of Our Creative Souls, where my sister and I have been talking back and forth about a lot of projects and things we want to make. She's doing jewelry right now and selling some on Facebook Marketplace. She's done some bracelets and necklaces, I think. She's also going through and organizing her space and trying to set up a more organized and bigger workspace in her home. So am I. I have not a bigger workspace, but I need to organize. And it's just an ongoing process. I've just have to come to terms with the fact that you never arrive. You're always in process trying to organize things. And as I use things up, trying to use the storage systems that I have. And the next thing that she and I have talked about doing is potentially getting our loom knitting out soon. So I have bought some chunky yarn, both at resale shops and at Michael's, that will work really well for loom knitting. So that is a future project also. And I don't know. I just have so many things that I want to do. And so does she. And so we're wrapping up our gardens, and mine is got wildflowers that we sowed those seeds in the ground directly. They're finishing up with their blooming, and then the cleanup will probably be in the next couple of weeks. So she and I have been doing a lot of that and just kind of just bouncing ideas off of each other. I love doing that. She'll be like, did you see this? Did you see this on Pinterest? What about this jewelry? Or what do you think about this wreath? Or what do you think about this is something really cool that I saw. And I think you would be really great in making some. I showed her this really cute rope and wood shelving, a hanging shelving unit. It was super cute. So we've been doing that back and forth quite a bit. And I'll have to say that I took a whole day off for self-care. And I started a series on my YouTube channel called Self-Care Sunday. And I think that's pretty much what my YouTube channel is going to be. What did I do for self-care for the week, including projects, things that I'm passionate about, things that I find really that touch that spiritual part of me in the creative process and in expressing myself. So self-care last week. I took a day off of work on Friday a week ago. So I had a 3-day weekend because of that. And I took the Friday to do all of the things that I have been wanting to do. And I just needed a break from work. We all need those days. And it turned out that I could do that on that day. And I did exactly, so exciting, because all of the things I've been collecting for the crescent moon wreath and the Hobbit door inspired wreath. I made them on Friday and Saturday, and it was really, really cool. I did, um, it was a dollar store crescent moon wreath. Most of the things came from the dollar store. It was a wire base, and I bought some mesh ribbon to wrap around and around. And that wire base, you cut a little segment out first. I'm getting ahead of myself. And you bend the loose ends tight and you tape them. And that will make your moon shape, a crescent moon shape. And then I wrapped it with a mesh. It was stuff for like making bows. It's not the slippery kind, that's satin, but it was mesh so that you could wrap it around pretty tightly and then glue what you want for your wreath. And I liked all of the mosses on there. And then I did a dollar store flowers, and I had some leaves at home, and some other things that I bought were like they're berries, they're purple. And so it looked really cool. And it has like an off-center asymmetrical flower arrangement on the side of the moon. Really liked it. So I made a little TikTok, and I just have been having fun with video. And that inspired me to finish the Michael's finds for the Hobbit door. So I had some things at the home for it, which were things like the doorknob. It was actually a sample that I bought for kitchen. It's a kitchen drawer pull, not a pull, a drawer knob. There, get it right there. And I got a wooden plaque from Michael's that had some routed lines, like if you turned it sideways, it looks like a door, a hobbit door, a round one. And I did decide to go with the color that I liked, which was teal, versus trying to emulate the actual color that was Sam's or Frodo's or Bilbo's house. They all had different colors, and teal is one of my favorite colors. Then I affixed the grapevine wreath that is the appropriate size over that circle, and I wired them to screws that I had placed in the perimeter of that plaque so that the wreath won't fall off. And then I used all my leftover things from the crescent moon. The Hobbit needs to have all the mosses, and it had some of the flowers. I had a paper rose left over from a project I did a couple years ago, and I just kind of went through and found things in the house that I really liked. It has some of those beads, berries. They look like beads. It's berries on there, but I feel like it needs like some mushroom flowers, or I need to go through my Christmas ornaments. I have some mushroom birds. It needs a little something, and I think the crescent moon also needs one, mushroom bird or some other type of like mushrooms. I would love to find mushrooms, like a mushroom, you know what I'm talking about. I would love to do that. The inspiration crescent moon wreath I saw at Michael's had mushrooms on it, and I really like that. I also have a small crystal on the tip of the crescent moon. It's a little small. If I could find a bigger one, I would replace it with a bigger crystal. Or used to have somewhere in this house, and I can't find them, chandelier type crystals or bobishes that hung from candles, the cups to keep the wax from dripping down. They had these dangling pieces that are teardrop shaped, but I can't find them, but that's okay. The little one will be just fine. So let's go back to the Hobbit door. I did glue, when it was all done, the appliques that I made a few weeks ago for my cricket with felt and the shiny. They almost look like fairy wings. I glued that on with the door. It has a drawer knob, a little knob on there, and it looks exactly like the inspiration. Not exactly, because it's my version, but I'm shocked that I was able to do it. Wreath making is so much fun, and it doesn't have to be expensive. That's the thing with the Dollar Tree now having so many things, and we have a Hobby Lobby in town. It's great. You can make all kinds of seasonal things that you can put up, or like the Hobbit is not, that wreath is not fall, so you could leave it out all year. It's lightweight too. It's not a real heavy plaque, so I'm wooden plaque in the back. So today my goal is to find a bracket to use to hang on the nail that is going to be in the mudroom where my little Hobbit wreath is going to go. So if you haven't seen one of them before, I did do a whole video called Self-Care Sunday on my YouTube, and it shows you these projects. So that day of self-care was just what I needed to just calm down from a really hectic month at work. And I was able to journal, and I was able to go through some really positive exercises, mental exercises like positive thinking, thinking about some goals, living day at a time, not getting too far ahead, but having some goals for the day, for the week, for the month. Took some time to journal in my Silk and Sonder journal, which I felt like I hadn't had a lot of time to do that kind of thing either. And then I really did a lot of cleaning in the house. I think, just sometimes you just need to clean your mind out mentally with all of the cobwebs and things, and the house got cleaned up. And then I realized I had some time alone Saturday, so I went to the thrift store with my friend, who I don't get to see very much anymore. We've worked at the same company for decades, no, literally decades. And she got a promotion, and she doesn't work in my same department anymore. It was great. We had time. We went to another town that has 4 thrift shops that are larger, and I bought 24 candles for my daughter that were all in oranges, greens, and yellows for her buffet display for this fall season, and I shipped them out to her today. So the day of self-care, it was more than just doing my nails, even though I did do my nails, and taking a bubble bath. It was really getting deep into what was bothering me, what was stressing me out, and doing the exact opposite of those things. Doing calming, relaxing things, breathing deeply. I did some exercise, mostly walking, and I got together with a friend I haven't talked to in a while, and we had the best time, and we had a really nice lunch. So that was my day of self-care. So what I really have been working on is Sundays as being my day where I have a few hours of just doing some self-care things, whether it's making something that's a little different than what I normally do, or more instant gratification, to experimenting on watercolors, and sometimes journaling can be writing words or things on the watercolors or doodles. Those kinds of things are super fun. And I just really feel like sometimes we just don't really take care of ourselves. At least I don't take care of myself as well as I should. And Sunday is a good day to reset for that. So I'm going to have to think about what I want to do for Self-Care Sunday tomorrow. And I don't know. Probably talk about the kinship and just, I think I probably will talk about the kinship. But the biggest thing is, it's not, the self-care part is not doing the quilt. It was actually the long haul. It took me 3 summers of the 100 days to finish something that I started, which I think is very important to me. I really, really think there's just something very therapeutic about finishing and getting the good feelings you get from finishing a project. But also that you, even though I was tempted to throw the whole thing away because I thought it looked too much, that it actually worked out. And I took time to try to problem solve it. And through all of that was growth. I learned so much about on the 2 quilts. And I think this is why they were hard for me to finish, is that they were scrap quilts. They were true scrap quilts. I was not working with a collection. I was not working with things that were all matchy. And They went together, each block super easy. Same with the Irish chain. It's a scrap quilt, but you have to have something to tie it together, right? The neutrals or the backgrounds. So I learned so much about scrap quilts, and I've been actually doing kind of a deep dive over the last week, reading articles and looking at people who do scrap quilts really well. And so I can give you two websites or blogs. There we go. One is Stash Bandit. She does a great job, and she's doing some online classes that are Zoom based, and they're really not expensive at all. And you can learn a lot about making scrap quilts and how to up your scrap quilting game. Now, I was going to take it the next one, but I can't because I'm going to a Highland game next weekend. Yeah, it's another 3-day weekend, so 3 in a row. But stashbandit.com, and her name is Diane Harris. She's a great teacher. I have taken a couple of her classes in the past, so I would recommend that. And of course, Just Get It Done Quilts. She does a more YouTube-oriented types of things, but she has a lot of great tips and tricks about quilting, but she also has some good ideas about scrap quilts because she's trying to use up her scraps as well from time to time when I check in on her YouTube channel. So learning about scrap quilting, it's one of those things where it is so hard to do. It looks easy, and it should in your brain go, oh, that'll be so easy, just use up the scraps, but it is not. It's very hard, and it makes that 3/4 mark where the adolescent phase of the quilt where I'm just like, I don't even know, right? You know what I'm saying? It's just like you're like, I don't even know. This is just not even, I don't even know if it's working for me. How is it going to work for other people to look at it? And I don't know, the longer I quilt, the more sensitive I get about that because I've made some pretty wild and crazy quilts in my day, but the last two, and I started these right around the pandemic, so maybe that's really the other part is they're pandemic quilts, or a majority of it was made during that time, and my brain is probably on other things, like the world. So many things going on in the world that we will not talk about here because, it's not necessary. We all know what's going on, and all of those things also probably had a huge bearing on my need to have a day of self-care and taking care of my own mental health. So, those were the wreaths I did. And I have a couple of Cricut things that I want to work on, printing off another Sam's speech and some fall stickers that came in on my email as freebies. If you have a Cricut, there's so many people that you can sign up for their newsletters, and they send you like free projects or SVGs to do things all the time. I really like Corey George. I really like Jennifer Maker. And there is another lady, I think she says it, Goya, Gjoa. She has some really nice things. So I have a square shadow box, and today I got a simpler but free layered mandala that looks beautiful. And I've been wanting to do a mandala, but the really super intricate ones are kind of scary. So I'm going to try this one, which is it's very beautiful, and it's not quite as busy and lacy, and I like it. It kind of has more of that Art Nouveau feel. So I want to look at my paper today to see if I have the right colors, because that would be perfect in the shadow box. So those are a couple Cricut things that I'm going to be working on this weekend. So the rest of the day, I'm going to be sorting through my things and looking for my fall decor, and I think changing of the seasons and the fresh start for my new year. I gave you some things that I want to work on in this fresh new year, and I'm going to just really, really, really enjoy the changing of the seasons. And I think is kind of a big representation of just things changing and getting back to a little bit more routine life for me back at the office and my day to day routine. So next weekend, I am going to a Highland game in Kalamazoo if I feel well and up to it. And the weather isn't blasting 100 degrees again. I'm really planning on going. You always leave yourself some wiggle room, right? And I think the biggest thing is I'm just really wishing we could do a lot more traveling, and then I think that's kind of one of those things, like I want to go, and then there's part of me that's concerned about traveling, that's concerned we're really careful about eating out and where we stay, and this is an outside event, and possibly see my son and daughter-in-law, maybe outside at a restaurant. We have ate at a couple of indoor restaurants too, but I just feel like maybe that's part of this whole thing, right? With the self-care, it's like no one's ever lived through this kind of a pandemic before. So what do we do? What are we supposed to be doing? Where is this going to go? We don't know. We don't know anything. We're just getting through it every day. But I'm going to plan to go on that because I don't know how much traveling we're going to be doing, in the next few months. And winter's going to be here, and that kind of puts the end to long distance traveling. But I am still looking forward to seeing the grandkids again, and hopefully that will be in October. And I'm going to take some things to their house. That's why I want to organize some things and go through stuff and make sure that I'm taking things that will fit in this trip and kind of try to prioritize that kind of thing. And I've also kind of peeked in some of my stash. Like I've got a batting stash that's just remnants that needs to go. And I just need to really get serious now that the weather's cooled off about just making things more open so I can store things properly and access them easier. So that's it for this week. It's a little bit shorter podcast. I think I'm going to probably do a couple of week format here for a while. I just can't believe I looked at my Podbean because I'm like, I know September is the month for the podcast anniversary, right? And I was like, oh my goodness, it is. How many years have I been podcasting now? Let me find the date. And this is the podcast anniversary. I can't believe it. September 7th, 2016 was my first podcast. And this will be 155 podcasts. I'm not doing anything real special this year for the podcast anniversary just because things have been just too much over the last little bit. And I have been a little under the weather. You may be able to tell in this podcast. Yeah, urinary, fun stuff. But I'm feeling much better than I was. So 3 long weekends in a row, I think will go a long ways in helping me to heal up from that. But I can't believe it. This is the podcast anniversary. 2016. 5 years. I appreciate the listeners who have been here for the full 5 years. Thank you. If you are just new, there's several years to listen about things in my life and creativity and how important I think it is to keep being creative and trying all different kinds of crafts and art and processes. It keeps me from getting bored, and it also is very therapeutic and healing. So happy podcast anniversary to my Creative Corner 3. We've made this 155th episode, 5 years. And I appreciate all of you who have supported the podcast. You can continue to support it this next year through Ko-fi, buy me a virtual cup of coffee, or you can do a one-time support on Etsy also. Ko-fi has a new thing where you can do a monthly sign up if you want to do that type of a coffee, a monthly it's not a subscription, but you know what I'm saying, commitment. There we go. And one time is beautiful, actually. I mean, I am very appreciative of the people who have taken the time to support the podcast over the last 5 years, because without your support, it would be very difficult to continue to produce and do the podcast. So thank you all very much. Please leave a comment at mycreativecorner3.com and let me know what kinds of things you're working on, and let me know how long you've been listening and where you're from. It's kind of fun to see how many people from different places and around the world do listen to this little podcast, and how much fun we have together. I still have a sew along with the Manx quilt for overwinter, and I have a few other things that maybe we can do together. But for now, I think I'm going to wrap up with just continuing my UFOs and maybe start my Halloween decorating and my Halloween quilt. Have a most wonderful week. Be creative and quilt on, everyone.